The original Hyundai Kona was just launched here in Malaysia less than 6 months ago. But unfortunately, that was around the same time that the updated version, the facelift, came out for international markets. It was somewhat of an unfortunate timing for Hyundai Sime Darby Motors Malaysia. But now we're finally getting the updated version of this funky, lifestyle-oriented compact SUV. It has updated looks inside and outside, a lot of new features, plus a more streamlined model range. So what's new this time around? Let's take a few minutes to find out. Let's start with the variants first. The old Kona had 3 different variants and it was a little bit confusing where they had both the 2-litre NA and a 1.6-litre turbo engine. And yet it was the smaller engine that was more powerful and more expensive. So this time around, Hyundai has gone for a much simpler approach with just the 2-litre engine across 2 variants. The base Hyundai Kona 2.0 goes for just under 120,000 ringgit, while this top spec Kona 2.0 Active goes for 137,000 ringgit. Both models are a few thousand ringgit more than before, but as you'll find out, both come with a whole bunch of new features to go with it. As for looks, Hyundai has quite dramatically changed the whole front face of the Kona. In comes a whole new front bumper, and I think it now looks a lot sleeker, much more organic than the more straight-cut original. In a way, I find this funny because the original, I've always thought it looked better in photos than it did in real life. But with the facelift, it's the complete opposite. Now, this may look a little bit fussy, a little bit fishy in photos, but in the flesh, I think it looks absolutely gorgeous. It's every bit as cool, quirky, and fashionable as you want compact SUVs to be. And if you want to stand out in a whole parking lot full of Proton X50s and Honda HR-Vs, this is the one to be seen driving in. In detail, this car's very slim eyebrow LED DRLs are now even slimmer than before. And moving further down, this car's headlights get this really nice triple reflector lens. Gone is a small little slit on the front bumper over here, and the big logo has been moved from the grille to the top part of the bumper. I think it looks better where it is now. The wheels are the same size as before, but it gets this really nice crisscross design, and it wears the latest Continental Premium Contact 6 tires. Changes in the back is a lot more subtle compared to the front, but it does clean up most of the extra fussy bits on the original Kona. All the light classes get new updated LED graphics, and if you look closely, the arrangement mimics the one in front with a thin strip up top and a bigger cluster at the bottom. I think that is a really nice touch. On the side, it's clear to see the Kona is a whole lot smaller than most of its competition. This follows the sizing conventions of European audiences, where they put a lot more focus on actual modern design, drivability, as well as interior tech. This stands in stark contrast to Japanese car makers that just put size over everything. In a way, I much prefer this approach. I much rather have a good-looking small SUV than a big one that's just bland and boring. I mean, I'm buying a car for myself, not my mother. To go along with the fashion-forward approach, the Kona is available in a bunch of very bright and interesting colors, with equally quirky names like Galactic Grey, Surfy Blue, Misty Jungle, Dive in Jeju, and Dark Night. But unlike before, the two-tone color scheme is no longer available in Malaysia. As for the interior, the changes are quite minor, but there are a few key changes that's worth talking about. Number one is this lower center console over here. It's now changed in terms of design to make it look less cluttered, and it does give it a bit more of that SUV vibe inside. Moving down here, you no longer get a traditional handbrake. It now has a much more modern electronic parking brake. Also on this modernity theme is this brand new digital instrument cluster with multiple themes to choose from. Now, these new items may not look like much, but together it does give it a much more modern feel to it. It finally looks and feels like a 2021 car and no longer like a 1990s throwback. In the middle here, we are only getting the smaller 9-inch screen option and not the widescreen one available in Europe. But it also has wireless Apple CarPlay. So for that, I think you can sort of forgive these big ugly bezels on the side. Having wireless CarPlay at a car at this price range is fantastic. Moving on, there are only a few little design changes here and there, like this side aircon vents with a radial spoke design instead of horizontal slats. I think it does look a lot better. This aircon controls over here have a slightly different design. Again, not by much, but it does give it a much more modern feel to everything. Plus, overall, there's not much wrong with this cabin to begin with. The center bit over here is nice and soft touch, and the overall fit and finish of this car is very, very good for this class and price. One thing I do miss from the old Kona are all the color-coded bits for the interior, like this center ring over here. In the old car, they used to be matched to the outside of the car. Here, it's all plain black and chrome. But you do get a choice between full plain black seats or this white leather with red piping on the side. This may not be the best choice in the long run, but I think it looks very interesting, very fashionable at least. Since you know this car is very compact on the outside, it's no surprise that the interior reflects that as well. This is nowhere near as spacious as most of the cars in this class, but tell you what, this is already bigger than in most Mini models. And since I think this car appeals to the same crowd as Minis, I don't think space is going to be a big issue here. This will fit most adults just fine, and the seats are actually very, very comfortable back here. There is still no rear aircon vents in the center, but at least you do now get a USB charger for your mobile devices. Same story with the boot. At just 361 liters, it's nowhere near as spacious as other rivals. Under the floor, you don't get a spare tire, there's just a tire repair kit, which is a bit of a shame. Now, pretty much everything we've shown you is of the top spec 2-liter active version. That's because I think that is the version to go for and not the base 2-liter version. The standard car just loses out on way too much equipment compared to the active. On the outside, it gets very ugly halogen headlamps, plain black plastic front grille instead of a glossy finish on the active, smaller wheels on the side, and more plain bulbs on the back as well. Inside, you also get fabric seats, traditional meters instead of a screen, manual aircon, no power seats, no head-up display. For 17,000 ringgit less, you basically lose out on pretty much the entire appeal of having a fashionable car in the first place. But the biggest reason to choose the active is in terms of safety. The base 2-liter model only has 6 airbags, electronic stability control, but that's it. The 2-liter active adds on Hyundai Smart Sense, which includes autonomous emergency braking or AEB, active lane keep assist, blind spot collision with braking assist, high beam assist, as well as rear occupant alert and safe exit warning. But what is a downgrade over the old Kona is the lack of an adaptive cruise control system, which would have been nice to have. Under the hood is the same 2-liter naturally aspirated engine as before. This here makes 149 PS and 180 Newton meters of torque. Now, those numbers may sound very low for a 2-liter engine, and you'd be right, because this runs on an Atkinson cycle that focuses more on fuel consumption rather than performance. Now, this will surely give you a much better fuel economy figure compared to a turbocharged engine. What's new is the transmission. Out goes the old 6-speed auto and in comes Hyundai's iVT. Now, that's basically a CVT that uses a chain belt instead of an old school metallic belt. Power goes to the front wheels, but you do get 3 traction modes just in case you want to do some light off-roading. So that's the 2021 Hyundai Kona facelift here in Malaysia. I think based on looks and equipment alone, I'm quite a big fan of this small SUV. So over to you, what do you think of this new compact SUV? Let me know in the comments section below. Thank you for watching and stay safe everyone.